His lips brushed against mine with a hunger I had not felt in years. My back pressed against the cold wall of his apartment as his hands moved with certainty, pulling me closer into a world I swore I would never enter. The room smelled of sweat, wine, and something dangerously sweet. My body trembled, not from fear, but from the intoxicating rush of knowing I was somewhere I did not belong. And then, in the middle of the heat and chaos, he whispered the words that froze me in place. "I love you." My heart stopped. Those 3 words landed heavier than any kiss, heavier than any touch. My husband had not said them to me with that kind of fire in years, but hearing them from another man made my stomach twist with guilt and desire all at once. I pulled back slightly, my breath shaky, my skin still burning, and I realized that I was standing at the edge of a cliff, one step away from falling into a pit I could never climb out of. Before I dive into this story, let me pause for a moment to thank you. To all my loyal subscribers, thank you so much for being here and supporting this channel. You have no idea how much it means to me. To all the new viewers and those returning who have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it truly serves as the fuel and energy that keeps powering this channel. Please, do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments as soon as you hear this story, because your engagement is everything. Now, let us get back into it. My name is Claire. I am a 36-year-old American woman, living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Pennsylvania. I have been married to my husband, Daniel, for 10 years. He is a kind man, steady, dependable, the kind of man who remembers to take the trash out without being asked, the kind of man who puts the kids to bed and kisses their foreheads with patience that seems never-ending. He has never hurt me, never strayed, and never given me a reason to doubt him. And yet, here I am, about to tell you how I betrayed him in the worst way possible. The man who whispered those 3 words into my ear was Michael. He was 32, fit, confident, and single. He worked at the same gym I had recently joined, the gym that was supposed to help me take care of my health after 2 kids and years of putting myself last. When I first met him, I noticed his smile. It was not just attractive, it was magnetic. He carried himself with a boldness that made women turn their heads, and I was no exception. It started innocently, or at least that is what I told myself. He would spot me during workouts, compliment my form, and sometimes linger a little too long with his eyes. I told myself it was harmless. I was a married woman, he was just a trainer doing his job. But then came the moments that blurred the line. The texts outside of gym hours, the way he asked about my day in a way that felt more intimate than casual, the lingering touch on my arm when he laughed at something I said. Daniel was busy. He worked long shifts, came home tired, and though he loved me, he did not look at me the way he once did. The years of routine had dulled the passion. I felt invisible, and Michael made me feel seen again. One evening, after a particularly rough fight with Daniel about money and schedules, I went to the gym late. The place was almost empty. Michael was there, and when I saw him, I broke. I told him everything, how I felt unwanted, how I felt trapped in the same cycle every day, how I wondered if I even mattered to Daniel anymore. He listened. He did not judge. He pulled me into his arms. That hug lingered too long, and before I could stop myself, my lips found his. The first kiss was fire. It burned away every ounce of guilt for just a moment. His lips pressed against mine with urgency, his hands firm on my waist, and my body betrayed me by leaning in deeper, hungrier. That night, I crossed the line. I went to his apartment under the excuse of needing to talk more privately, but we both knew what would happen. The way he touched me was reckless, wild, and nothing like the careful, predictable intimacy I had with my husband. It was wrong, and I knew it, but the danger made it feel even more alive. And then came that night, the night he whispered that he loved me. I remember the way his voice cracked slightly, as if he had been holding the words inside for too long. I should have pulled away. I should have ended everything right there. But instead, I froze. My body was still his, but my mind spun with chaos. How could he love me? How could I let him? How could I go home to Daniel, kiss him goodnight, and act as though I was not carrying another man's love in my heart. When I finally stumbled into my car that night, my hair a mess, my lipstick smeared, I stared at myself in the mirror. I did not recognize the woman looking back. She was dangerous, reckless, and full of secrets. I was no longer the wife who baked cookies with her kids and smiled in family photos. I was living a double life. And the worst part was that a piece of me did not want to stop. That night, I drove home with Michael's words echoing in my ears. I love you. My heart raced, my palms were sweaty on the steering wheel, and I realized that this affair was no longer just about lust. Feelings were getting involved. And once feelings get tangled in lies, the destruction is unavoidable. As I slipped into bed beside Daniel, pretending to be asleep before he could ask where I had been, I wondered how long it would be before the truth ripped everything apart. The morning after Michael confessed his love, I stood in my kitchen pouring coffee like everything was normal. Daniel sat at the table, scrolling through his phone while our two kids bickered about who would get the last pancake. The smell of syrup and the sound of laughter should have wrapped me in comfort, but instead, it wrapped around my neck like a noose. My body still hummed from the night before. My lips were still tender from Michael's kisses, and I had to fight the urge to touch them. My heart beat fast every time Daniel looked at me, as if he could see Michael's fingerprints still imprinted on my skin. But Daniel never looked at me long enough to notice. He was tired, distracted, and his world revolved around work and providing. I kept smiling, I kept laughing, but deep inside I was burning with shame and thrill. Every ordinary moment at home felt like a performance now. Every hug, every kiss on the cheek, every shared dinner was a lie I was feeding to my husband and children. The double life had begun. Michael's words haunted me all day. I love you. They replayed in my head as I folded laundry, as I loaded the dishwasher, as I picked up the kids from school. I wanted to silence them, but I could not. The truth was that hearing them filled a part of me that had been empty for years. Daniel loved me, but his love had become routine. Michael's love felt dangerous, electric, and alive. At first, I tried to keep my distance, to tell Michael that we needed to slow down. But distance did not last long. The pull between us was magnetic. A few days later, I found myself in his apartment again, pressed against his chest, letting him take me with a passion that left me weak. His words came again, this time whispered between breaths, and I let them sink deeper into me. I told myself lies to keep going. No one will know. It is just between us. I deserve to feel this alive again. I am not hurting anyone. But in reality, I was hurting everyone, especially myself. The lies spread like poison into every corner of my life. I told Daniel I was staying late at the gym, that I was running errands, that I was visiting a friend. Each excuse rolled off my tongue easier than the last. And Daniel, trusting as ever, believed me. His trust was my shield, but it was also the very thing I was shattering behind his back. The guilt came in waves, especially when I looked at my children. They adored their father. They adored our family. And there I was, tearing it apart with every secret kiss I gave another man. But guilt was not strong enough to stop me. The desire was stronger. Michael began to want more. He told me that sneaking around was not enough for him. He wanted me to himself. He wanted a future, not just stolen nights. He started asking me questions that shook me to my core. When are you going to leave him? Do you even love him anymore? Do you ever imagine us together, for real? At first, I brushed them off, telling him we needed to take things one step at a time. But deep down, those questions took root. Did I still love Daniel? Was my marriage just a shell of what it used to be? Or was I convincing myself of that just to justify what I was doing? The more Michael pressed, the more tangled I became. I was drowning in his passion, but I was also drowning in his expectations. He looked at me with a kind of hunger that scared me sometimes, as if I was no longer just a woman he desired but a woman he wanted to possess. Meanwhile, Daniel started to notice small changes. He asked why I was suddenly working out so much, why I was buying new clothes, why I was smiling at my phone late at night. I gave him answers that seemed to satisfy him, but his eyes lingered longer now. He was not suspicious yet, but I knew the cracks were showing. One night, after putting the kids to bed, Daniel reached for me in the way husbands do. His touch was gentle, familiar, but my body stiffened. I could not stop myself from comparing him to Michael. The way Michael's hands explored me with urgency, the way his lips devoured mine, the way he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. Daniel's touch felt safe, but it also felt dull. I hated myself for feeling that way. As Daniel kissed me softly, whispering that he loved me, I closed my eyes and imagined Michael. My betrayal had reached a depth I never thought possible. I was lying not just with my words but with my body. The danger of it all became intoxicating. Meeting Michael in hidden places, rushing to his arms with the risk of being caught, made every encounter more thrilling. We met in his apartment, in his car, once even in a hotel on the outskirts of town. Every time I swore it would be the last, but every time I found myself back in his arms. But the more I gave him, the more he demanded. He wanted more time, more promises, more of me. He began to talk about moving in together, about me leaving Daniel and starting fresh with him. His voice carried hope, but also pressure. He said he loved me, and if I loved him too, I would choose him. That night, lying in Michael's bed with the sheets tangled around us, I stared at the ceiling and realized I was trapped. If I stayed, I risked losing everything I had built with Daniel and my children. If I left, I would break their hearts and step into a life that was uncertain, built on betrayal. Either way, someone would be destroyed. And then, something happened that made my stomach twist in fear. Daniel started asking more questions. He wanted to know why I was suddenly so secretive, why I was hiding my phone, why my mood changed every time I came home from the gym. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. He was paying attention now. The web of lies was beginning to unravel, and I could feel it. I knew the truth was getting closer, and when it finally came out, it would destroy everything. The night it all came crashing down was not loud. It was quiet, too quiet. Daniel had been watching me for weeks, his eyes sharper, his patience thinner. I thought I was clever. I thought my lies were solid. But a man who loves you knows when your heart is no longer his. That evening, I told him I was going to the gym. Instead, I went to Michael's apartment. The moment I stepped inside, Michael kissed me like he had been starving for me. His hands roamed, his voice was breathless, and I gave myself to him once again, forgetting the world outside those four walls. We moved together in a rhythm that had become too familiar, too reckless. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, but I ignored it. I was lost in the heat of betrayal. When it was over, I lay tangled in his arms, skin damp, breath uneven. He whispered again that he loved me, and this time he said it with a demand. Leave him, Claire. Leave your husband. I cannot do this anymore. I need all of you. My stomach tightened. His love was no longer thrilling, it was suffocating. The fantasy was starting to feel like a cage. I told him I needed time, but Michael pressed harder, his eyes dark, his voice firm. He wanted me to promise him something I was not sure I could give. I left his apartment that night shaken, confused, and more trapped than ever. As I drove home, my phone kept buzzing. Missed calls. Texts. My chest tightened when I saw Daniel's name on the screen. When I walked into the house, the air was heavy. The living room lamp was on, and Daniel was sitting on the couch, my phone in his hand. My heart stopped. Where were you, Claire? His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. My throat closed. I told you. At the gym. He raised the phone. Then why did you ignore my calls? Why do you have messages from him? I froze. My mouth went dry. He had seen them. The texts I thought I had deleted, the ones I thought I had hidden so well. Messages from Michael telling me how much he missed me, how much he loved me. Daniel's voice cracked, but his gaze never left me. How long has this been going on? My legs gave out, and I sank into the chair across from him. Tears blurred my vision. I wanted to lie, to spin another story, but the truth was written all over my face. It just happened, I whispered. His fists clenched, his jaw tightened. He stood up and paced the room, running his hands through his hair. You destroyed us, Claire. You destroyed me. I gave you everything, and you gave yourself to another man. The sound of his pain was worse than any scream could have been. My children slept upstairs, innocent and unaware, while their mother tore their world apart. I did not mean to hurt you, I cried, but the words sounded pathetic, hollow. Daniel stopped pacing and looked at me with eyes I did not recognize. They were cold now, stripped of love. Pack your things. I gasped. Daniel, please. No, he snapped. His voice broke, but his resolve did not. I will not forgive this. I will not live in a house where my wife sneaks out to another man. You chose him. Go to him. The weight of his words crushed me. Go to him. As if Michael was truly the man I wanted. As if I had not been using him to fill a void, to feel something reckless and alive. But the truth was brutal. In chasing that feeling, I had lost everything that truly mattered. I packed a bag in silence, tears dripping onto my clothes as I folded them. Daniel did not come upstairs. He stayed in the living room, a broken man guarding the ruins of what was once our marriage. When I stepped out of the house, the night air was cold, biting against my skin. I looked back at the window where the lamp still glowed, where my husband sat alone in the home we had built together. A home I had just destroyed. I drove to Michael's apartment, but when he opened the door, I knew instantly that it was wrong. He smiled, pulling me in, ready to celebrate the idea that I had finally chosen him. But as his arms wrapped around me, I felt nothing. No thrill. No passion. No love. It hit me like a knife to the chest. I had given up my marriage, my family, my stability, for a man who was never meant to have me. I pulled away, shaking my head. I cannot do this. His smile faded, confusion clouding his face. What do you mean? You are here. You are mine now. No, I whispered, tears choking me. I left my husband. I lost everything. And it was all for nothing. The realization shattered me. The fantasy was over. The affair was no longer thrilling, it was poison. I left Michael standing there in silence, his love no longer a comfort but a curse. That night, I checked into a motel on the edge of town, staring at the ceiling as regret swallowed me whole. My marriage was gone. My children would wake up to a broken home. And all I had left was the memory of kisses that destroyed everything. I learned too late that passion without boundaries is destruction. I wanted fire, and in the end, I burned down the only life that truly mattered. Daniel never looked back. He never begged, never forgave. His silence was final. And me? I was left with nothing but regret, knowing I had thrown away forever for a moment of flesh.